Some people don't think louder, they think deeper. They pause longer before they speak. They notice patterns others miss. They replay conversations, analyze emotions, and question meanings that most people pass by without a second thought. These people are often called deep thinkers. But in psychology, deep thinking is not just intelligence. It's a way the mind processes the world. Deep thinkers have a highly active inner world. Their thoughts don't stop at what happened. They go further into why it happened, how it felt, and what it means. This is known as introspective cognition, the tendency to turn attention inward and examine one's own thoughts, emotions, and experiences. Deep thinkers don't just experience life, they reflect on it. That's why they often feel more than they show. One reason deep thinkers exist is heightened awareness. Their brains are more sensitive to details, tone of voice, subtle changes in mood, unspoken tension, emotional undercurrents. Psychologically, many deep thinkers score high in openness to experience and emotional sensitivity. This makes them curious, creative, and insightful, but also more vulnerable to overstimulation. They don't just hear words, they hear what's behind the words. This is why deep thinkers often struggle in fast, surface-level environments. Small talk exhausts them. Noise drains them. Constant stimulation overwhelms them. They need silence not because they're antisocial, but because silence is where their mind can finally breathe. Deep thinkers are also prone to overthinking, but this isn't a flaw, it's a side effect. When your brain is trained to explore multiple perspectives, it doesn't shut down easily. They replay moments, not because they want to suffer, but because their mind is searching for understanding. In neuroscience, this is linked to increased activity in the default mode network, the part of the brain active during reflection, imagination, and self-analysis. This makes deep thinkers excellent problem solvers, writers, artists, and strategists. But it also means they are more likely to experience mental fatigue. They think deeply about love, deeply about pain, deeply about purpose. That depth feels heavy. Another defining trait of deep thinkers is their relationship with emotions. They don't feel emotions in a straight line, they feel them in layers. A single moment of happiness can come with gratitude, fear of loss, nostalgia, and meaning all at once. A moment of sadness can trigger reflection, growth, and insight. Because of this, deep thinkers often appear calm on the outside, while storms move quietly inside them. They may struggle to explain what they feel, not because they don't understand it, but because it's too complex for simple words. Deep thinkers also tend to be selective with people. They crave depth in conversations, authenticity in relationships, and meaning in connections. They would rather have one honest conversation than 10 shallow interactions. This is why many deep thinkers feel lonely, not because they lack people, but because they rarely find those who think and feel at the same depth. Yet, this same depth gives them resilience. Deep thinkers learn from pain, they exact lessons from failure, they transform experiences into wisdom. Psychologically, reflection strengthens emotional regulation over time. Even when they struggle, deep thinkers grow. They don't rush healing, they understand it. However, deep thinking has a cost. When life becomes overwhelming, deep thinkers are more likely to retreat inward. They isolate, not to escape people, but to process. This can sometimes be mistaken for distance, coldness, or detachment, but in reality, it's self-preservation. They need time alone to recognize their inner world. And when they return wiser. If you are a deep thinker, you may have been told you are too quiet, too sensitive, or thinking too much. But psychology tells different story. Your mind is not broken. It is tuned differently. You were built to notice what others ignore, to ask questions others avoid, to feel meaning where others feel nothing. And in a world obsessed with speed, noise, and surface-level validation, deep thinkers carry something rare: depth. Not everything needs to be said quickly. Not everything needs to be understood immediately, and not everyone is meant to live on the surface. Some people were meant to go deeper, and that is not a weakness. It is a quiet strength. Deep thinkers also have a unique relationship with time. They don't just live in the present moment. Their minds move freely between the past, the present, and the future. A single memory can trigger reflection about identity. A small decision can spiral into questions about destiny. A quiet moment can feel expansive, almost infinite. In psychology, this is connected to temporal depth, the ability to mentally travel across time and extract meaning from experience. This is why deep thinkers often feel older than their age. They've lived many versions of themselves internally. They've already questioned things others haven't reached yet. But this depth also makes them more sensitive to existential concerns. Deep thinkers don't just ask, "What should I do next?" They ask, "Why am I doing this at all?" They think about purpose, mortality, legacy, the kind of life that actually matters. And while these questions lead to wisdom, they can also lead to periods of existential anxiety, a quiet unease that comes from seeing too much too clearly. Many deep thinkers struggle with feelings out of place. They may succeed externally, jobs, responsibilities, achievements, yet still feel internally disconnected. This happens because their values often don't align with surface level goals like status, attention, or constant productivity. Crave meaning, not just motion. Psychologically, this creates an inner conflict, living in a world that rewards speed while having a mind that moves deliberately. That's why deep thinkers often burn out silently. They don't complain loudly, they don't dramatize their exhaustion, they simply withdraw. They become quieter, more inward, more distant. Not because they don't care, but because they care too much. Deep thinkers are also highly affected by emotional residue. They don't just move on from moments, moments stay with them. A harsh comment lingers, a meaningful compliment echoes for years, a painful ending replays in different forms. Neuroscience suggests that emotionally reflective individuals encode experiences more deeply, making memories more vivid and harder to release. This can feel like emotional weight, but it's also what gives deep thinkers their profound empathy. They understand pain because they've sat with it. They understand joy because they've examined it. They understand people because they've studied themselves. This is why deep thinkers often become the ones others turn to. They listen without interrupting. They respond thoughtfully. They don't rush advice. They make people feel seen. Yet, ironically, deep thinkers often feel unseen themselves because they don't always know how to translate their internal depth into words others can understand. So, they stay quiet. And when they do speak, they choose their words carefully. Not to impress, but to be precise. Another overlooked trait of deep thinkers is their relationship with solitude. They don't fear being alone, they fear being mentally crowded. Solitude is not emptiness for them. It is a workspace. It's where ideas form, where emotions settle, where identity sharpens. This is why forcing constant social interaction can feel draining to them. Their mind needs room to expand, not pressure to perform. And yet, solitude is often misunderstood. Deep thinkers are labeled distance, detached, hard to read, but the truth is they are deeply connected to themselves. And that connection is what allows them to create, empathize, and understand at levels others may never reach. If you are a deep thinker, you may feel like your mind is both your greatest gift and your heaviest burden. You may wish at times that you could think less, feel less, question less, but psychology reminds us of something important. Depth is not a mistake, it is an adaptation. In every generation, deep thinkers are the ones who slow the world down long enough to ask the questions that matter. They are the philosophers, the writers, the quiet leaders, the healers, the observers. They don't dominate conversations, they transform them. They don't chase attention, they build understanding. And while the world may not always reward depth immediately, it always depends on it eventually. Because progress doesn't come from noise alone, it comes from those who dare to think deeper than what was required.